our series. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're just going to allow a few more minutes for others to join, and then we will get started. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Angeline Valentine, and I help to oversee the Belize Marine Fund, which is one of the 5 MARFUN programs. Today, we'd like to welcome you to another in the series of MARFUN hosted webinars. Today's presentation is going to be had by Reefkeeper Belize, who will share their work and experience in engaging youths around community stewardship and mangrove awareness at Saltwater Caye Marine Reserve. We'd like to share that the session is being hosted on Zoom, but is also being streamed live on MARFUN's Facebook page. If you are connecting with us via Zoom, we would like you to know that the session is being recorded. However, we are providing also simultaneous translation, and you can use the instructions that you're seeing here on the screen so that you can access that if needed. We also invite you at this moment to share with us your name, organization, and the country you're represented in the chat box here on Zoom. For today's presentation by our speaker, we have just about 30 minutes, and I'm excited about that. We're asking you, or participants on Zoom, if you have questions or comments while the speaker is presented, that those are placed in the chat box. And we're also inviting our viewers on Facebook Live to post their questions and comments. I will now take a few minutes to introduce our speaker for today, Lisa Mulcahy. Lisa is a marine biologist and a marine educator. She's passionate about Belize's extraordinary marine environment and loves training students and teachers about the sea. Lisa has 10 years experience in Belize teaching in both the classroom and in the field, and has 13 years of experience as a marine educator. Lisa holds a Bachelor's of Science degree and a master's degree in marine resources management from Texas A&M University. She also holds certificates in communicating ocean sciences in informal audiences and environmental education. Lisa is the founder, director, and educational coordinator of Reefkeeper Belize, a marine environmental education not-for-profit based on Tobacco Caye in the Sand Creek district. Reefkeeper offers Belizean students marine education lessons using STEM and experiential field trips to the islands and the reefs to inspire stewardship of marine and coastal habitat. Lisa, we're so happy to have you join us here today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Valentine. I appreciate it. It's my pleasure to be here and talk about our program, and we're really grateful for MARFUN's funding of this project. So as I believe Ms. Angie said, this is the Saltwater Caye Marine Reserve Community Stewardship Mangrove Awareness and Nursery Pilot Project, and I am the Executive Director and Education Specialist. And I won't go into this because I forgot that she gave a great introduction of what Reefkeeper does, but this just gives you a visual of what it is that Reefkeeper does and how it looks on our field trips with the kids. They're really excited to see the reef. This is our staff and chairman. We couldn't do it without our assistant, Timothy Ramos, our accountant, Clint McCulloch, of course, our youth ambassadors that I'm very excited to have, and our intern that we had visit us from Belgium. The project location, in case you're not familiar with where we're located, this is Belize in Central America, and you can see in the red box, you have the Saltwater Caye Marine Reserve that looks sort of like.
Sorry, Lisa.
I apologize for the interruption, but we're not seeing your presentation.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry. All right. So let me just back up really quickly. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm unmuted. Great. So the project location, in case you're not familiar with the area, Belize is in Central America. And then in the red inset, you see the picture of the Southwater Caye Marine Reserve off the coast of Belize and satellite image with the Belize Barrier Reef. Here is Dangriga, our primary community that we serve within the Southwater Caye Marine Reserve stakeholder area. And Tobacco Caye, which is where the field office and field trips are, is 12.5 miles south-southeast of Dangriga. And then you can see Twin Cays here, which is this spot that looks like a little atoll there, but is not. That is where the fishery station is and where we've done most of our restoration. I'm not going to go through all the project summary, but just to remind you that our goal was to educate students about the importance and role of marine ecosystems, to promote conservation and perform community restoration and monitoring, and train ambassadors that can then be stewards of their marine environment, but also teach other kids and other people how to do community restoration. So part of our activities were classroom and field education lessons, where we went into the classroom and we talked about the mangrove ecosystems. And then we brought students out, both primary school, 7 primary school and 3 high school / 6th form, learned how to identify mangroves and visited the coastal habitats at Gra Gra Lagoon. So if you look at the map here, this is Dangriga, and this red area is Gra Gra Lagoon, basically a little bit south of Dangriga along the road from Drums of Our Fathers heading south. And you can see the students here looking at the different leaves to identify mangroves. We're very grateful to the Sartney Alliance for Conservation and Development for the use of their mangrove workbook, which was a really great resource for the field and teaching about mangroves in the field. We also do, as a part of the project, we educate in the classroom, we give the field trip to the mangrove area, but also take students out to the Southwater Caye Marine Reserve. Many of the students, especially at the primary level, so upper division, standard 4 through 5, have not had a chance to actually go out and see these environments. They've never been to the reef. They couldn't afford to take the field trip because they're very expensive. And so the great thing about this is we're getting kids out there in their own environment to see things firsthand. And that's really what makes the difference in getting kids excited about their marine environment, excited about mangroves, and developing a stewardship ethic and a love for the marine environment. This is Epworth Methodist here, the school that we worked with. And here's in the center, one of our ambassador interns, Asani Palacio, who helped to facilitate the trip along with us. So each time we have a field trip, we carry an ambassador who also gets to help facilitate the field trip, learn, how to do marine education and demonstrate restoration in the field. The restoration trips we did primarily with high schools because students had to be in the water and hammering. And we brought them out to Twin Caye, which is one of the islands that the students all get to see when they go on the trips. This includes younger kids. So this is on the far right-hand corner, you'll see the fisheries site, and you can see that it's very close to the water. So it's very important that we do this restoration because otherwise you can see that they're going to lose their office very soon. And here we employed what we call the Riley encasement method. I'll show you a close-up of that, but basically the mangrove seedlings are put in PVC pipes. And here's one of the students getting the seedling ready to be put in the pipes. Here's our mangroves that we brought out on our trip. And students here talking with the reserve manager, Lindolfo Chicas. So we're very grateful for fisheries cooperation. Here's a video that you can see what it looks like. So there's these pipes, they're cut along the side, they're hammering in the pipes. And then we're putting in the seedlings inside the pipe so that it can eventually grow up and protect the area. And that's the fisheries station. So you're looking right now at the west side of the island. As I said earlier, we do a CAP survey, a knowledge, attitudes, and practices survey, where we survey kids before and after each segment of the program to ask them whether they agree with these statements. And the statements are to gauge both knowledge, attitudes, and then behaviors. And it's interesting, I think I said this before, that when we presented this to some of the schools for the first time, students actually wanted to chop down mangroves. And so they strongly disagreed with the last statement. So you can see that the reason we're doing this type of education is to change the attitude of people living in coastal communities who feel like mangroves are a nuisance, they're habitat for bugs and alligators. We're really trying to change those attitudes to help them realize how important mangroves are to protect them. So our results, our numbers served. As of our interim report, we served 338 kids in the classroom, and then 312 for field trips. And some of those numbers are duplicate numbers because we served more people in the classroom, but not everybody was able to go to the field trip. And then when we surveyed students on these knowledge, attitude, and practice surveys, we found approximately a 50% increase in measures, in all measures, so that kids are really seem to be getting this. And then definitely all students should know the 3 types of mangroves and their importance and ecosystem services to the marine environment. Also, we created a mangrove nursery. This mangrove nursery has been a huge help, because a lot of times when you want to do your field trip, and normally we do field trips in the springtime when the weather is a bit better, so April, May, June, there aren't seeds available. And the good thing too about the seeds is as they've grown up, they're more robust. So it's better for the pipe method because they're a little bit taller. They stick up a little bit more off of the sediment. And students also got to learn how to sort seeds and what size seed is a good seed and what size seed will grow more slowly. They also learned how to prepare the soil, and we created 2 little nurseries. Nothing dramatic, but very effective with the thatch, and then pool liner at the bottom so we could simulate the wetland environment, and also lift out the crates with the Coke bottle planters. So we planted the mangroves in the Coke bottles as planters, and then you could lift them out of the nursery to simulate the tides or move them around, or they're easy transport. So it was a great system to work with. Our results were that we created the 2 nurseries that can house up to 400 seedlings. 200 seedlings we planted last year for use in restoration on Twin Caye. And then we're in the process of creating a nursery manual and monitoring manual. We're also going to put up signage so that kids will have information that they can go back, regardless of whether the nursery exists long-term. There will be long-term signage that they can go to and refer to. And then we also want to do a next planting of 150 seeds in October to get ready for, God willing, another community restoration trip, or if not, for use for other organizations that maybe need seeds. So we also did community restoration in front of Anglican Primary in Dangriga. Oops. And you can see the video of how that looks here. These were students from the Agricultural and Natural Resource Institute, which is where the nursery is located in Hook Creek. And we also had some volunteers from Peace Corps join us. Our restoration results. So the Riley encasement method, we estimate 50% survival. That's through video monitoring, where the fishery for the community restoration. Unfortunately, the seedlings washed away, but we're planning on doing more restoration, hopefully REM restoration with communities in the Southwater Caye Marine Reserve and within the Marine Reserve. And then the planting propagules on Twin Caye, when I asked the fisheries officer about how they were doing, he said, oh, but most of them washed away. And I said, oh, but could you please send me some photographs or video? And if you notice, if you look here on the right-hand side, you can see in and amongst all the marine debris that there are propagules growing. So I have a feeling when we get out there, we might see more propagules surviving than what we had initially anticipated. So here's the Twin Caye restoration site. You can see here, this is the west view. So that would be facing Dangriga and the Maya Mountains. The east view would be towards the barrier reef. And obviously the east side is a more high energy environment. And then the west side is a little bit more of a low energy environment. And you can see here that they've tried to put tires and also conch shells in front of the restoration to protect them. And so we got some photos from Bertram Ferguson of Fisheries. And you can see here the little mangroves poking out of the pipes. So they're growing, they're getting there. And some of the lessons learned, definitely students really enjoy the hands-on activities of planting. And I think it better illustrates the importance of marine ecosystems. And in my opinion, I believe they learn better in a hands-on environment because they're making memories and they're engaging their five senses. We found that unprotected propagules and seedlings generally don't work well in a high energy environment. We sort of knew that, but I'll explain some of the challenges we had later. And then plantings, we were advised that plantings probably require palmetto fencing or gabions or other ways of protecting the seedlings on Twin Cays. And then another lesson that we learned was it's difficult to know how deep to plant your propagules in the PVC pipe because you want to have the mangrove to where it can grow into the soil. And you don't want to have it so low that it drowns during high tide, but then you don't want to have it so high that the roots can't connect with the soil or the sediment. So here are some of our challenges. Available restoration expertise in country is lacking. While there are people that do have some level of expertise, they're very busy because there's a lot of restoration going on. And so finding expertise is a bit of a challenge. Also, restoration protection solutions require significant expense. So for example, gabions or even palmetto fencing requires more expense. And some of these protections, when you're talking about altering the landscape or, the water environment, may trigger an EIS And adapting to those sorts of projects is a bit above the capacity of small grassroots NGOs. Also, one of our challenge continues to be that seed sourcing is lacking, so that, finding the seeds when they're available, you have to do a lot of, at least for us, we had to do a lot of checking and phone calling and running around trying to get seeds, and then trying to find other organizations that have seeds available, and connecting with them is a challenge. So that's why I think we need to have more nurseries. Nurseries are great. Also, the REM method that we used was a bit more costly than we had originally anticipated. And finally, monitoring plantings on a key does require additional expense and budget to get out there and monitor regularly. So we really have to engage our partners, our landowners and partners, to help be the eyes on the ground for us. I'm really proud of our Reef Keeper ambassadors. I hope some of them are here. I'm not sure if anybody's in attendance, but we have a great group of people who've done a lot. Aseni Palacio is a fisherman's daughter and wants to be a marine biologist.
Para que no le duela.
I hear some Spanish speaking, but I'm not understanding what, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Lisa, thank you.
Okay. So anyway, we have our ambassadors. One of our ambassadors, Analia Zuniga, did a summer camp with kids at the library, teaching them the importance of mangroves. Dorita is our youngest ambassador, who's been doing this for multiple years and is really into the cleanup. And Trevon, who's the tallest one in the group, he was always the one willing to help me with seeds and go into any buggy, mangrovey, snaky environment to help me get mangroves. And Emmanuel, originally from St. Bight, also helped to facilitate field trips. And then our captain helped us to manage to acclimate the mangrove seedlings before planting, when we planted on Twin Caye. And then results of the ambassador program is that obviously all ambassadors got to participate in cleanups. They all participated in assisting with at least one field trip. They are very clear on the importance and ecosystem services of mangroves. They learned about mangrove ID, basic restoration techniques, monitoring principles, and how to select and harvest seeds. And finally, last but not least, our cleanups. So cleanups are a way that we get to partner with some great community members from Nuberetinu, which is our youth in Garifuna, the BTIA Youth Farm, and other partners to get people out there to talk about why mangroves are important, why they should keep the beach clean, to keep the trash out of the mangroves, to keep the trash off the reef, and just to better engage with our community. People are excited to do restoration and really want to go on more key trips to plant mangroves and be reef keepers. The results of the cleanup, we collected 54 bags of garbage. We get on an average of 10 bags per trip. We've interacted with hundreds of participants, and the community, as I said, was educated about the harms of plastic pollution. And all of the photos either are from, going back here, all the photos are either from our administrative assistant, Timothy, or our intern from Belgium, Leah, or myself. And we're very grateful for permission from the Forest Department, for fisheries, for being willing to engage with us and doing some great education and giving presentations while students were out there on the Keys. Of course, Ministry of Education, without whom we could not do this program. And definitely the teachers, districts, and principals who all realize the importance of teaching kids about the marine environment and marine ecosystems and mangroves. And they really love their field trips as a teaching tool. We're grateful for Pathlight that paid for one field trip. And of course, we couldn't do anything without our funder. And I want to thank personally Miss Angeline Valentine for her support and patience throughout the whole project. And I'm ready to take questions whenever you guys are ready.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Lisa, and for all that you're doing to engage these youths around marine stewardship and conservation. I don't know if I would be right in saying, and maybe you can expound a bit, that for a lot of these youths, the sessions in class and also the field trips for quite a few of them is actually their first exposure introduction to the area of marine conservation, kind of like on a hands-on level. I know you've been doing this for quite a few years, and so this might be a good opportunity to, and I think you've highlighted some of it here, but maybe just to share a bit more of the joyful faces that you see for a lot of these kids that are really experiencing this this part of what our country has to offer for the first time.
Yeah, it's really my pleasure, and I'm very blessed to be able to do this, and very blessed to be able to continue to do this. And one of the interesting things I've seen is just, that kids that have never seen these environments are just completely amazed, completely inspired by how cool they are, how interesting things are, even things like mangroves where people don't find them that interesting. The kids really, really got engaged. And what we're seeing in the long term, since I've been doing this for a long time, is that I'm getting students back. So I'm getting students who say, oh, I did a field trip with you in primary school, and now I'm studying environmental science in college, or I'm studying environmental science in high school, and I'm still interested. So that interest is sparked and continued. And when we visit with different, like the field station managers on Smithsonian, on Caye, they've said, we can see that there is definitely an increase in the amount of education that kids are receiving through these programs. If you look at the curriculum, for example, at the primary level, which is mainly why we target primary level schools, mangrove is only mentioned in standard 4. So, and some kids don't go to high school, so this is their only chance to get that information about the marine environment. And if 50% of natural resources depend on, or 50% of Belize's economy depend on natural resources, then this is really critical information for them and life-changing, I think.
Thank you, Lisa. I think I'm seeing a comment here from Caye Herrera. I'm pronouncing that correctly. And so I'll just read this for you, Lisa. I think it's a comment mixed in with a question, maybe. It says, as an experiment to introduce young people and adults to the world of mangroves, it is very good. However, wouldn't it be better to try to ensure greater success in the experiment so that the enthusiasm does not decrease? I do not know to what extent the basic principles of mangrove ecology are explained in these workshops, such as their sensitivity to high energy sites and what would have to be done before starting the restoration experiment. A mangrove barrier as an experiment to a nature-based solution to reduce erosion problems could be viable. I think that's it. Comment that was just, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to share with her.
So I didn't necessarily hear the last bit, and I'm not able to see.
It's in the chat.
I know, but for some reason it's cut off. So I can see part of what he's saying, but anyway, I'll address what I can. There's a lot of people that, that you'll talk with, and they say, oh, you know, it needs to be super successful in order not to discourage kids. Mostly we're working at the primary level. So standard 4 to standard 6, that's at age 11 to 13, 14, roughly 10 to 14, depending. And this is their first exposure to mangrove ecology. Yes, we talk about the importance of the marine environment, but we're talking about basics. So kids, most of the restoration that we've been doing, let me back up. So primary kids, we don't do restoration with them on the Keys because the parents don't want the kids in the water. And there's concern that it's a safety issue to have them banging pipes or dropping in seedlings and those sorts of things. So that the primary kids mostly are getting the exposure to the marine ecosystem. And we talk about the restoration. They see the site on Twin Keys and they see the plants, but I don't even think that they really understand about, you know, restoration success or if the project is successful or not. And it's too early, I think, at this stage to even say it's not successful because we haven't really been able to do our own monitoring. We're relying on fisheries to tell us what's going on out there. So there's that. At the high school level, kids have a better understanding, obviously, of marine ecosystems. And it would be great for things to be more successful, but how should I say? When I was talking to, for example, my colleague at forestry, she basically said a lot of what we're doing in Belize is a bit experimental. And so I think if you would talk to the kids, I don't think they would be discouraged or even really have any idea about, you know, what is good survivorship or not. I think the main thing is teaching them about the importance of the environment and letting them see things. And we didn't do significant restoration on the coast. Most of it was the Riley encasement method.
Thank you, Lisa.
Question.
Thank you, Lisa. For me, I think there might be two things. As you were saying, there's a component related to, if you want to call it, the strict restoration and the science of restoration. And then there's a component relating to engaging these kids and working to create the next generation of stewards and behavioral change. And that is something that takes time and is also hugely important to have a body of stewards that want to continue in conservation and want to learn more and do more, so that as we continue to evolve and grow, they might be a part of the hands that helps us to get the restoration correct. If it is, that is something that we're still struggling with, because there has to be those that are passionate about the work and want to do it. And so I have one other question that I'm seeing here from Mr. William Usher. How can this be replicated to allow for connection with the blue economy, the government promoting? Where do you see the connection?
That's a great question. I believe anytime that we're restoring habitat to promote habitat for fish and wildlife and promote areas for tourism, we're promoting our blue economy. And in helping other people to access the marine environments, we're promoting the blue economy. And then, for example, if we're preserving our land from erosion or hurricanes, that's definitely going to keep our economy in the blue zone. Also, you know, with mangroves, it's really important for carbon sequestration and for mitigating climate change. And that's part of the Blue Bonds is to help try to plant mangroves to mitigate climate change. So the more that we can get these students, like Miss Angie said, more that we can get them excited and prepared and to be the next restoration experts in the future, the more that we can promote our blue economy and find additional connections or uses or values that we hadn't even conceived of before doing all this.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I don't think we have any more questions here in the Zoom chat. I am not able to see the Facebook Live. So colleagues, please let me know if there's anything there. I haven't seen any indication of any posts there. So if there are no other questions for Lisa, I would like to thank you again for taking the time to be with us here today and for the work that you are doing to inspire youths around marine resources management and conservation. I think it's hugely important as we continue to navigate our path to a healthier Mesoamerican reef. I would also like to thank you, our participants and our viewers, for being here with us today. And I would like to say that I wish you a great rest of the evening and the afternoon. So with that, thanks again. Bye.